took his gun away, but the second 5 shots after the pause is nothing but murder and execution.
In this video, James Carville tells the GOP to abandon all hope and snaps at a guest, while Cenk Uygur exposes a massive Second Amendment lie. Let's watch this together, and then I'll give my 2 cents at the end.
Now we have the, to me, utterly extraordinary hypocrisy of people who've spent the last 20 years telling me that absolutely an American has a Second Amendment right to take a gun legally to a protest or anywhere they see fit. But now, because it doesn't suit the narrative, suddenly this is a terrible thing to be doing. I don't remember that argument with Kyle Rittenhouse. So to me, as always with these things, I don't take a side, but I do look at hypocrisy when I see it and call it out when I see it. And I'm seeing a bucket load of hypocrisy.
When even Piers Morgan is calling out the hypocrisy, you know the narrative is broken. But now, watch Cenk Uygur take that opening and drive a truck through it. He doesn't just call it hypocrisy. Listen to the specific words he uses to describe what happened.
From the side, and the third shot killed her. Now you go to Alex Preddy, and they called him a domestic terrorist and an assassin who went there to murder law enforcement. Now, guys, look, number one, you could see that's clearly not the case. They're clearly telling them, who cares? Just shoot away. And in the case of Alex Preddy, there's the first 5 shots, which, again, are totally unjustifiable because they already took his gun away. But the second 5 shots after the pause is nothing but murder and execution. But not only are they killing people in the streets in an effort to divide America and get us to hate each other, but on top of that, now you see, without a shadow of a doubt, for all the independents who voted for Trump, and even for the right wing who voted for Trump, you see that his team is a bunch of liars. That guy was not a domestic terrorist. He was a guy who treated veterans, and his last words were, trying to protect that poor woman over there. And that was his last effort. And to call him an assassin, there is no question that they are giant liars. And they're trying to get us to hate each other and don't buy into it. And yes, finally, the last irony is when we were using our First Amendment rights on the left, a lot of the right wing said, well, free speech, we didn't quite mean it. Now, and by the way, when I say that, I mean the extreme right. Most of Trump voters are abandoning him on this issue as well. And now they say, well, now that it involves the Second Amendment rights, maybe we'll pay attention. Ironically, if he wasn't armed, I think he would get less right-wing support. And that is a deep irony. But I'll take it because right now it's become obvious to the whole country they're taking away our First Amendment rights, our Second Amendment rights, and they're trying to set up a police state. And a police state isn't going to care if you're left or right.
A murder and execution, that is a heavy charge. Now watch the MAGA pivot. Clay Travis realizes he cannot defend the shooting on the facts, so watch how fast he tries to change the subject to the border.
You're right.
Look, I think we're going to figure out more details on this. It looks to me like maybe his weapon discharged, that is the weapon that they took from him, discharged, and then there was a panic and a thought that a gunshot had been fired and the reaction occurred. That's my analysis of it right now. I think there should be an investigation. If it's determined that he behaved in a way that was outside the law, then this individual should be charged. And again, I think the real issue here, big picture, again, is how do you get the 10 million that Biden let out? But also, these individuals are going and intentionally obstructing these ICE agents from being able to do their jobs. And this, I believe, is the intent. They want a violent act, whether it's Renee Good, whether it's this individual.
He completely dodged the question, but Piers Morgan, of all people, doesn't let him off the hook. Watch Piers take that school shooting logic and use it to trap him.
Okay, but Clay, before I move to the other 2 panelists, again, I am struck by an irony here because Renee Good wasn't armed and it didn't save her, right? And the bottom line is, I thought the position on the conservative right, which is mainly supportive of the NRA, for example, is that actually the answer, say, to school shootings is that everyone should have guns at schools, right, to stop this happening. That would stop it happening. If you take that logic, then after 2 shootings, 2 people being shot dead by ICE agents, wouldn't the logical thing be to do to take a gun, if you're legally allowed to have one, to protect yourself against the same thing happening to you? In other words, is the argument not being put forward here by people on the right who love guns? I'm not going to get into that debate again. litigated that years ago. We've moved on. It's your country, your debate, your guns. However, it does seem hypocritical to me. It's like this is the completely opposite advice that you would normally give to a situation which keeps recurring where people are being shot. The normal advice is you should, if you're allowed to carry a gun, take it to defend yourself.
The silence is deafening. They have no answer. So now, let's shift gears. The policy debate is lost, so James Carville steps in to read the political obituary for November.
Isn't it?
Well, first of all, a fabulous Republican economist, I think his name was Herb Sines, said that which can't continue won't. This is not going to continue. By the way, if I were a Republican, I would be reminded of the sign on the entrance of Dante's Inferno, abandon all hope. You're going to get beat so bad in November, you have no idea. The Democrats are going to pick up 6 or 7 Senate seats. And the idea that somebody exercising poor judgment, which I'm sure I do 10 times a day, is the excuse of someone to shoot me is utterly ludicrous. So people make mistakes all the time. They park in no parking zones, they exceed speed limits, they might drink too much. None of this suggests that you ought to be out shooting people. And honestly, what you have there is a bunch of undertrained, not particularly qualified people with badges and guns. And this is going to be the result of it. The American people don't like it overwhelmingly. Stand by, sit still, and get the crap beat out of you, because that's what's going to.
Abandon all hope. When Carville quotes Dante's Inferno, you listen. He sees a total wipeout coming, but this next part is the climax. Carville starts listing the receipts on Trump's military disrespect, and when he gets interrupted, he absolutely snaps. Watch this.
Enough stuff at the wall, you go extreme, you go hard, and then you rein back and get what you may have wanted in the first place.
Well, first of all, his statements about the UK soldiers is completely consistent with his entire life. He is the single most anti-military president we've ever had in the United States. Let's review the facts. The bone spurs? Oh, really? What about in Bella Wood, that he refused to leave Paris and go honor maybe one of the 5 greatest battles in American history? You can't go on a Marine Corps base that there's not a Bella Wood Avenue. Then he tells General Kelly, and yes, he told General Kelly, that American military people were suckers for serving their country like this.
You're going to keep bringing up these old points that aren't true. This is disingenuous. You're not being honest right now.
Excuse me for speaking while you're interrupting. Okay,
well,
then he
tell the
tells,
truth, and I won't.
Again, excuse me I apologize for speaking. I admire your service, but your manners don't come to snuff here. He told John McCain publicly he didn't like people who were captured, was shot down, was a POW, was a pilot in the Navy. Yes, he told General Kelly the people were suckers. Jeffrey Goldberg reported it, and they tried time and time again to have General Kelly say he did say it, and he never did. This is the most consistently anti-military president the United States has ever had, and I hope we'll never have one like him again.
Your manners don't conform to snuff. That wasn't just a snap. That was the adult in the room finally shutting down the noise. What we just witnessed in this breakdown was a two-front war on bad ideas. On the policy front, you had Cenk Uygur exposing the fundamental incoherence of the modern right. They have spent decades telling us that the Second Amendment is the ultimate check on tyranny. But the moment a citizen uses that right to protest actual state overreach, the script flips. Suddenly, the patriot becomes the terrorist. As Cenk proved, their definition of freedom is entirely dependent on whether you vote for their team. And then, on the political front, you have James Carville. He isn't interested in the culture war, he's looking at the math. When he tells the GOP to abandon all hope, he's identifying a massive fracture in their coalition. You cannot spend years insulting the military, insulting allies, and backing police violence without eventually alienating the very voters you need to win. Carville sees a party walking straight into a political inferno, and his lack of patience with the interruption shows that the time for both sides' debates is over. He's looking at the scoreboard, and he sees a wipeout. So, the question is Carville's prophecy correct? Is the hypocrisy we saw today the nail in the coffin for the MAGA narrative this November? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I read as many as I can. And if you want more breakdowns like this, where we cut through the noise, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.